Here's how Miami can take the momentum of a deep college football playoff run and turn it into the top recruiting class in the country.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. On this loaded episode with our special guest, we'll talk about Miami's portal success and why the Hurricanes have the perfect size of incoming transfer portal class. We'll talk Miami's path to the college football playoff because Miami, among two other teams, apparently have the best path to the CFP. And we'll talk to Miami's quest for another top 5 recruiting class and possibly even the top. And there's no one better to talk about all of this stuff with than the man we call the recruiting overlord and the transfer portal overlord. Brian Smith from the Portal Pod is with us. All right, so Brian, is there a path for Miami? You know, national runners-up. Obviously, there's a path for Indiana as well. But, you know, Sig builds his rosters a little bit differently out of high school than Mario Cristobal does. So is there a path for Miami to turn their success on the field into an even better recruiting class than they usually bring in?
Absolutely. You can say we've got proof of concept. We showed you last year, but we can do it when people said we couldn't. Here we are in the national title game. So if that doesn't sell to recruits, I don't know what does, because it's fact. So Miami already has, in my opinion, one of the top 5 staffs, if not the best staff in college football at recruiting. Mario obviously helps that, but he holds his guys accountable. Now they've got something to sell that's not been done at Miami in a long time, and they were already having top 10 classes. How would it not improve is probably my question in return. So, yeah, my only other thing, you and I have talked about this a few times, will they do better in Florida with the elite kids? They've lost some key kids in state. That'll be the key. If they're going to get that top class, they got to win more of the elite battles within the Sunshine State. But otherwise, yeah, like how would it not be?
Winning those elite battles within the state, that's a great place to start, Brian, because I also want to ask you about some national kids like 5 stars from outside the area. But if you stay right within that state of Miami, Nick Lennear is a 5-star wide receiver now at Miami Carroll City that, I mean, he's outright said it. Like, Miami is setting the tone in his recruitment, and they are the leaders right now until proven otherwise. And Mark Matthews, the top offensive tackle, St. Thomas Aquinas, is also somebody Miami seems to be trending for. Talk to me a little bit about those players, because, listen, you're talking about 2 local 5 stars that I think can set the tone for exactly what you're talking about.
I got a chance to meet Nick out in Las Vegas, of all places, at Battle Vegas. And I walked up during his interview. He said SC in Miami, if I remember correctly, would be 2 OVs. And I'm sure it'll be pretty much the normal suspects. 1 or 2 others will be in-state, et cetera. But he didn't seem like he was anywhere near making a decision, but Miami was a constant theme among the interview. Great kid, very direct, and he is super competitive. Like, he wants to destroy people. He reminds me of a lot of the former South Florida receivers, whether they went to Miami or not. Like, they've got that dog mentality. He has it. Man, he's good. He is really, really good. So I'm curious to see when he makes his decision, because I think he's the kind of guy that could help Miami. If he committed, let's say, first week in June or whatever, I think he could help the U get a few more South Florida kids to come, because he has some cachet to him. I don't know his timeline. I don't know him like that. And I don't get the sense that he's worried about it, but Miami's right there, and I think he would change a lot. As for Mark, I know him better. That's a kid that wants to take some visits and figure it out, but he's been a priority for them for over a year. I would imagine that there are a lot of kids that would also, kind of like with Lennear, hey, Mark's going to UM. What's going on there? I need to check them out. And they're both South Florida guys. I think those are the 2 most important recruits arguably on the board. because of location, the high schools they go to, and at the end of the day, they're just elite. I think Miami's probably the leader for both, just being around them, and now it's just closing.
Throughout the week, I've seen some of the national recruiting analysts at On3 Sports, like Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons and company, talk about a few of these, top players from out of state. And Miami's made a couple of important finalists lists, Brian. I mean, Miami makes the top 4 for 5-star wide receiver Manchin Sales, who's a very different body type from Nick Lennear. Lennear's 6 foot, about 165 pounds. Manchin Sales, he looks like an NFL player right now at 17 years old at 6'5", 195. Now he plays in Indiana, but I think he's from Alabama originally. So Alabama and Indiana are both very much in play for him, along with Ohio State and Miami in that top 4. And it's people consider Alabama to be the favorite, so I'm going to ride with that for argument's sake. But I do hear a lot about Miami possibly surging for him.
This is an interesting recruitment. I'm very familiar with that area. I'm from that area. I know the high school he goes to. Last year at Rivals 5-star, he measured in at 6'4.5", 210. So that weight is an old weight, and his hand size was that of a linebacker. It was over 10 inches. So his hands are enormous. He's a defensive end playing receiver, and he's freak. His recruitment is odd because the Alabama tie, kids from Indiana don't go to the state of Alabama to play football as a rule.
Yeah.
But Alabama's been all over him. I'm curious to see what happens there. I think he grew up a Bama fan because he's from there, but now he was in Indianapolis. And Indiana just won it. Ohio State's recruiting. He's got a very unique recruitment. Miami is the wild card here. They were also in the national title game too, and they've obviously got a lot of history with the receivers. Just look at the sidelines during their games. There's certain former Hall of Famers on the sidelines quite a bit. But I don't know what to think of them until I see him take the OBE, because I know Miami's going to go after him. But they need, just like everybody else, it's different with certain players because of the size. There are very few boundary receivers, meaning that true 6'2" plus guy that's 200 plus pounds. They're like offensive tackles. They're good offensive linemen, but if it's a good offensive tackle, it's a different value. Boundary receivers are different. So I imagine Miami's going to make every concerted effort to make it happen. And for those of you who don't know much about him, pull up his huddle film. For a guy his size.
I watched it yesterday. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's he's playing in Indianapolis. There's a lot of talent there. It's still a basketball city first. Most of the best athletes want to play hoops, but he's running by guys that are 5'9", 170. He outweighs him by 40 pounds. He's a burner, and he's got massive size. He's an NFL player. So, yeah, he's been developed for a while, and he could have played for anybody. And, he's probably overwhelmed, but his recruitment is as national as it gets, and Miami's right there in the mix.
Yeah, and it's great for Miami to be in the top 4. He's narrowed it down quite a bit, but it does seem like within that top 4, Miami has some ground to make up there. Another one that Miami makes the finalist list for, go to the defensive side of the football, 5-star player, top safety, Southern California kid. Miami's landed some kids out of SoCal in recent cycles, like Hayden Lowe a couple years ago. I know I'm going to butcher this young man's name, so I apologies in advance to the family. Honor Fa'alave Johnson, who has he's taken a whirlwind spring tour. Miami makes the top 6. He's going to visit Miami March 5th through the 7th, but he's also in March and April. He's also visiting Oregon, Texas, USC, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, and Notre Dame. There's more than 6 schools in there, but Miami's in his top 6 as of right now. I believe, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, USC is considered to be the strong favorite for him right now.
That kid, if you look at the programs that have put DBs in the NFL recently, they're pretty much on his list. Yeah. He's looking at this as I want to go to the NFL. And if those schools are after you hard, and they are, that kind of says it all. And I've watched his film. He can close ground. He's got size. He's got speed. He could probably play corner in certain schemes. This is a guy that can pick his school. This is another one, though, kind of like with Sales. Can Miami, coming off the title game run, does that cachet help them get somebody that nobody's picking them to get? If you're going to have the number 1, number 2 class, you've got to win a couple battles that, you were the underdog. Cristobal has done that plenty since he's arrived back in Coral Gables. Maybe this is one of the guys. Just getting him on campus for the unofficial gives you a chance, of course, at the OB And that's what the kid's trying to figure out. Who do I want to take my OVs to? Somebody's going to get eliminated. I will bet you that because Miami does such a good job with the recruiting process, they'll still get an OV. They won't be one of the schools eliminated.
All right, when we come back, I got two important questions for Brian Smith. One of them will stay in recruiting, and I'll ask him, how much negative recruiting can we expect from other schools when Miami's trying to land a class of 2027 quarterback? Because there's obviously a factor that other schools are going to remind quarterbacks of. And then getting off the recruiting beat, I'd like to know exactly why Brian Smith considers Miami to be one of three teams with the best chance to make the college football playoff next year. You want to keep it locked. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, hiring isn't just about finding someone who's willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listings to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. And that's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours just made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. We're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, the winter games are in full swing, and if you're anything like me, you're locking in for the events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. And guys, curling is absolutely lit, and it's even better when you have action on it. Speed skating races are awesome. Downhill skiing, luge, skeleton, they go freaking head first on that thing. FanDuel gives the entire Olympic experience. It keeps it engaging for you from start to finish. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And if you're an everydayer, hit up that Everydayer Club. Join that all-access tier. Click the link in the show notes below or go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com. When you become an all-access member, you get exclusive episodes. You get an exclusive newsletter, one-on-one texting with me, discounts in the Locked On merch store, and so much more. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com to become an official Everydayer today. All right, we're joined here by Brian Smith, and I hope you're an Everydayer to the Portal podcast as well, which Brian hosts and does a really fantastic job on that. You know, Brian, you spent a lot of time out at these camps. Like you were just at the Under Armour event. You talked to a lot of prospects and a lot of high school coaches. You know, for a team like Miami, who, you know, we mentioned all the reasons why Miami's an attractive recruiting destination. But when Miami's trying to recruit quarterbacks, right, and guys that are on the radar like Neiman Lawrence, Champ Mons, Miami's still trying to flip Trent Seaborn from Alabama. Miami's taken transfer quarterbacks now for 3 straight years. Is that something schools are using as negative recruiting? Like, hey, you're a quarterback, you want to go to Miami, look what they do every year.
I'm sure that's an open playbook. Everybody's going to do that to a certain degree. Like, why wouldn't you? If you're like Florida or Florida State or anybody else, they can say, well, this staff is consistent with it, you know, or whatever school they're recruiting against. Like Champ Mons, like his list, Ohio State's on, Notre Dame, et cetera. But some of these other schools, like Ohio State won a title in 24 with a transfer quarterback. When they played Notre Dame, they had a transfer. So it's not just Miami. There's counterparts.
Indiana just won with a transfer quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
They
like
took
Indiana,
another one.
Most schools, this is the new trend. I know Indiana doesn't want to spend big on high school quarterbacks. They want proven commodity, which I think most teams are that way. That's one of the other things. And the kid's got to go somewhere. So I'm curious if a trend starts where, like, okay, I want to go to Miami because I'm a Miami fan or whatever. They don't offer as much as some other school that's maybe mid-level. I think we're going to see more elite kids go to more mid-level or perception of mid-level programs and then transfer because kids just don't want to wait to play. So I think it'll be hard for Miami because they do have a couple really good high school quarterbacks on the roster and they're waiting. So the question is, like, how long, like, when will it be that Miami doesn't use a transfer quarterback? Because they're going to be in the same boat next year. You know, at what point are you just not going to do that? I don't know. It does nickel or somebody like Darian, do one of them leave? Like, that's the depth chart next year at Miami. It was the same conversation, will be very intriguing. I have no idea what they're going to do, but at some point, if you want to sign high school quarterbacks, you got to play one of them too. So, but I get the Mensah thing. Like, he's as good a player as there is in college football. So if you lose somebody and you get Darian Mensah, my response if I'm on Miami staff is, oh, well.
Yeah, right.
That's how I would look at it. I'm just being honest. Yeah. So,
and I think the situation's going to stay fluid. Like a year from now, or 11 months from now is really when you have to start deciding that. Like, I think I'll feel better about the young players Miami has in the room. Like, I'll feel better about Luke Nickel with another year of seasoning and Darian Coleman with a full year. I'll feel better about that than I felt this past year with Emory Williams and these younger guys. But it's like the same thing. Like, I could see next year being the year that Miami lets who's in the room compete. But if somebody like Darian Mensah, whoever next year's Darian Mensah is, if they become available, it's like, well, you don't go out of your way to pass on that. So I think it's fluid, and I don't think this is going to be decided until the portal next year.
Well, what if JKS decides he's leaving Cal?
Oh, yeah.
You know, somebody like that. I'm not saying it would be Miami, but like, they would at least make a phone call. Oh, sure. I mean, there are some kids that it's just a little bit, it's like, sorry, not sorry. You know what I mean? It's just, this is a top 5 player at his position, and it's the most critical position. Like, every team, and I'm just using JKS as an example. I have no idea. I don't know the kid, but if he goes in the portal, his agent's phone will implode. You know what I mean? It's just Miami, like any other school, would be foolish not to at least kick the tires. That's all I'm saying. If you don't go that route, you decide to go with like Luke Nickel or whatever, that's your decision. But did you do your due diligence? Did you check? Did you at least find out if you'd have an interest? You know what I mean? And that if that happens, you probably portal again. You know, that's just the way of college football today.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time on Locked On Canes the last couple of weeks, Brian, talking about what it's going to take for Miami to get back into the playoff next year. And then you put out a great video on social media and a YouTube short yesterday with Miami and 2 other teams, as in your mind, these 3 teams having the best shot and the clearest path to get into the postseason. Tell us about those 3 teams and why is Miami among them?
First off, it's talent and coaching, but it's Texas Tech, Notre Dame, and Miami. And if you want to go through and discuss, okay, what are the schedules like that? Like, some people are saying Miami's schedule is not that. Listen to the Texas Tech here. They play nobody out of conference. Like, they don't play anybody out of conference. It's worth a darn. And Alex, I want your opinion on this. Is it coincidence that this year's Big 12 schedule, BYU doesn't play Texas Tech? Do you think they're trying to get BYU into the playoff?
Yeah, they're trying to get them both in. No, that's not accidental.
No, it's not. Texas Tech doesn't play BYU. Out of all the teams, and for those that don't know, I haven't looked it up, they went and got 7 portal D linemen, and they're all good. They're going to murder the Big 12. If their quarterback, who Sorsby's really good, obviously, I know Miami kicked the tires there too. If they don't go undefeated and he's healthy, I will be surprised. Now, whether they win the Big 12 title game, I don't know. But even if they didn't, if they're 12-1, they're getting in. As for Notre Dame, their schedule, like that long time ago when they set up, Michigan State was good. Wisconsin was good. Those teams suck. USC's not on the schedule. They got Miami at home. That'll be their, obviously, the big clash. SMU's at home. Like they just should. They get a really good roster. And then Miami with Mensah, like if you ranked them number 1, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Offense may be the best in college football. Defense loses some key guys, but it's not like they didn't reload. And like the ACC is garbage. You and I talk about this on Locked On ACC. We talk about it. Our personal like the ACC is awful. Like Florida State's terrible right now. Where do they play Clemson? Is it on the road or is it home?
It is on the road. So for that reason, it could be a tough game. Yeah.
I spoke to somebody at Clemson recently. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They're just going to go through spring and let it play out. Like,
wow.
That doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about the Tigers. And after last year, I have no idea what to expect. That was weird. Florida State's down. Clemson's down. Virginia Tech's rebuilding. BC's awful. Do they play Louisville? That seems to be Miami's kryptonite.
Yeah,
Louisville.
they don't.
So, like, who is there another ACC game where they do they play SMU? Like,
let me pull up the schedule here, and I'll tell you exactly who they play in conference, because I agree with you. I mean, obviously Notre Dame is the toughest game. So they in the ACC this year, they play Stanford. They play at Wake Forest. I mean, Wake Forest was sneaky good this past year, but I mean, come on, that's a win. They play at Clemson. They play home against Florida State. They play home against Pittsburgh. I mean, they blew the doors off of Pittsburgh on the road, but Mason Heinschel's back. That could be a pretty good team again this year. At North Carolina, who knows? Home against Duke, the Mensah Bowl, home against Virginia Tech, and home against Boston College. So that's the schedule this year.
I mean, if they beat Notre Dame, I would. If you told me right now they're beating Notre Dame, I'd say they go undefeated. Like it's about schedule. These are all good teams. Those are the three good teams that also play crappy schedules. I'm just being honest. Like Ohio State plays right out of the gate. They play at Texas. I think they're probably the best team. If I had to pick, they're playing at Texas game 1, or game 2, whatever it is. That's a hard schedule. Somebody ranked Ohio State schedule the most difficult in the country, just the way it went. Which, by the way, that shocks me. The Big Ten didn't try to help them. Don't get me started on that.
Same.
But it'll be interesting. But yeah, Tech, it's not even close. Tech has the easiest schedule out of the major programs. Notre Dame and Miami are right there behind them. I think those are the three that are most likely to get in and probably be top 5 seeds. I would imagine all three will be top 5 seeds.
We'll continue our conversation with Brian Smith when we come back, including why Miami's transfer portal class coming in, why it's not only uber talented when you have Darian Mensah, Cooper Barkate, and Damon Wilson, but why it's the perfect size of transfer class. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. You know who continues to move the game forward? Malik Renew with Miami basketball. Miami pulled off their big win on Tuesday night against North Carolina, a win that may have solidified Miami's NCAA tournament bid. And Malik, again, his 7th double-double of the season with 16 points and 10 rebounds. He has been Mr. Steady this season for Jay Lucas's team. And if and when Miami makes that NCAA tournament, Malik Renew is going to be a really big reason for that. And it reminds us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court. It's dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out Brian Smith on the Portal Pod. And I've been meaning to talk some transfer portal with you, Brian, because Miami brings in what 24/7 Sports called top 4 class in the country, and they did it, Miami, with 13 portal commits, which is less than anyone else in the top 10. Everyone else who was in the top 10 portal class had 15 or more. We can talk about the quality, but in terms of the quantity, you've told me off air, Brian, that you think 12, 13 guys like that's pretty ideal for the size of a portal class, correct?
Well, just looking at the first 2 years of the playoff, less is more. There are exceptions, but more often than not, it's continuity is the issue. Who did you pay? Who didn't? It can cause locker room issues when you take higher numbers. I was worried about Miami taking 19 last year. So they obviously weathered that. But some of the other teams like Ole Miss, who almost beat Miami, they had like 30. So they were the complete outlier. Texas Tech took quite a few, but they were mostly Texas kids. I think that helps. Anyway, to make a long story short, the teams that take fewer, Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame, Texas, some of these schools, is it coincidence? Because when you're taking fewer, it's not just because you want to take fewer, it's because your roster's good. It's a sign that you've done well in the high school ranks and you've retained well. The most important thing in the portal isn't the most sexy. Did you retain the key guys so they didn't get poached? A lot of we don't hear about because it's not news. But did somebody leave? Like, I'm sure that, I don't know who it was. Do you think Malachi Tony had some phone calls? Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's inevitable. Did Miami lose anybody unexpectedly like that? Not to my, unless you got something.
Popo was, it surprised me a little bit.
I thought I don't know what the deal was there. If they didn't offer him enough or how that worked, that was a little surprising to me. That
I mean, his father told me, that it wasn't about money. It was about playing time. I think he saw NC State as a place where he's going to start, and Miami, he probably would have been the first guy off the bench.
Well, I get it. That's what the portal is for. That's the actual intent of the portal. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
To that end, Miami, if you go through position by position, obviously starting with Mensah, did they fill holes? Did they get impact guys? And did they get some guys that keeps them on your roster and not on somebody else's that you're going to be playing against? Like, they did all three of those things. So I think it's a great class. And kind of like I've told people in recruiting, it's the same thing. It's not how many you took. Did you get elite guys? Or are they some of the best players across the board? If you go by position with who they signed, is there somebody go, that guy's not going to play? I mean, it's a better portal class this year than it was last year, in my opinion, and they took fewer guys. And obviously last year's hit. I'm not saying that it didn't, because it obviously did, especially in the secondary. But now I have more faith in Miami because their process worked and their roster is even better because they're recruiting classes. They don't have to jack around with the portal as much. Remember that 22, 23 like that? Like they were looking for anything because it was so bad. And like the roster wasn't even in the stratosphere. And I'll give Mario credit. He used to talk about that openly, which I know was hard for him. He was probably shocked when he got there and saw the guys running around. Wait a minute. This is what I got. This is not what I expected. So they've turned that corner, and barring a major injury to Mensah or something like that, how would they not be a top 10 team this year? Like, that's conservative to me. So I think that they took the right number. And if you look at the other teams, you know who they are, Georgia, Ohio State, etc. Their numbers are similar on how many they took from the portal. That means your recruiting's good, your retention's good, and now you're cherry picking. Once you get to that point, you've got a chance to make a run at the playoff the next season.
By the way, shout out to Miami's defensive coordinator, Corey Hetherman. You know, I was watching, I'm such a junkie, Brian. I was watching the live stream of the Broyles Awards ceremony last night. I didn't quite make it to the end because it was, man, those speeches were super long. But unfortunately, Corey Hetherman, he did not win the Broyles. But I know, because I talked to some of the people from the Broyles Award, and like the fan vote, which the fan vote is obviously not the full component. They have a whole committee and everything. But Coach Hetherman rocked the fan vote. He led the fan vote, which is great. But ultimately, the award went to Brian Haynes, the Indiana DC, which obviously it was going to be tough to beat the guy who was the DC of the national champion. At the same time, though, man, if I'm Corey Hetherman, my head is held high because certainly Miami's defense from 2024 to 2025 improved a lot more than Indiana's did. And that was the only year that Hetherman was at Miami so far. So he came up short in the Broyles, but it was a Broyles-worthy season. And maybe if the year had been different and Haynes hadn't been in the mix, Hetherman would have won that thing.
Yeah, he's got a great future ahead of him. He's pretty young. Yeah. He doesn't even have a lot of P4 experience. For him to do what he did at Miami in year one. Yeah, I know they got Rubin and all that last year, but they gave teams fits with their scheme, not just, okay, we're rushing 4, dropping 7. They mixed it up and caused a lot of problems for veteran quarterbacks. That tells me he knows what he's doing. My next question for you, Alex, probably one that nobody here at Locked On Canes will like. How long before Hetherman gets a head job? Like, I doubt it's going to be more than a year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm thankful he's definitely coming back for this year, staying. So I think anything beyond 2026 is house money if he stays beyond that. That's how I look at it.
Correct. Yeah, but he's done a great job, and you've got another chance to make a run at a title this year with him. So yeah, you can't complain. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, same here. Well, we appreciate Brian Smith for taking the time. Make sure you follow him on X at FBScout_Florida. Make sure you check him out on the portal and also on Locked On Seminoles. And thank you all so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club. Join that all-access tier. I did an episode this morning of the Canes Colada. Like, I roll out of bed, I drink my coffee, and I just turn the microphone on and talk with you guys there. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.